Hello! It's the end of another month and the start of another new one, and that means that I am going to wrap up my books that I've read in January and then talk about some of the books that I'm going to read in February. So I'll start with the books that I read in January. I think January is possibly my best reading month ever. Usually I read like a few books in a month and I'm just like, if I can read one book a week then I'm pleased. I read 14 books in January, which is kind of mad. Oh, actually, before we start, you might notice, if you watch some of my other videos, you might notice a slight increase in video quality. I hope you do. I bought a new camera recently, which is very exciting. I've got this camcorder. Hang on, let me go and get it. Since I started my channel, I've been using this camcorder, which I've had since 2013, I think was when I bought it. I bought it for about £100 in 2013, and by then I was like well impressed with it because it was like one of the first things that I'd spent my money on, like one of the first things that cost at the time a decent amount of money. And I've been using this since I started my channel, and the quality is just not great. It's apparently full HD, which I don't know if 2013 full HD is different to 2020 full HD, but it's just it's not that great. It's not amazing, but it's been great. It's been my trusty little camcorder that is like, I've taken it everywhere with me. I've recorded so many videos on it and I've done stuff on it for the past 7 years. But I just thought, considering I'm making videos a lot more now and I want to kind of get a bit more creative with my videos and the shots that I'm taking and all sorts, and I also want to get better at photography as well. I thought it was time to say goodbye to this little friend and get a bit of an upgrade. I'm still keeping this. I feel like there's no way I'm going to sell it for anything more than like 20 quid or something now because it's 7 years old. But yeah, I'm still going to keep this in case it can be useful at any point. Yeah, I've now got a fancy upgrade to this camera that I'm using now. Actually, you know what is useful with keeping this? I'm gonna quickly show you this camera using this to film on. I'm recording on here and you can watch me recording here. That's very strange. This is what my new camera looks like. It is, you can see me here on the viewfinder. It is the Canon 250D. You can see there, and it's just beautiful. I used to have a DSLR. I sold it quite recently so I could buy this one. I sold it for about 180 quid, my other one, which was a 1300D, which is a little bit older. This one, however, is a lot smaller than my other one, and this one has amazing HD video. It has 4K video, which I don't think I'm ever even going to use. The reason why I wanted to get another camera was this flip around screen. The issue with my other DSLR when I was trying to film on it was that it doesn't have a flip around screen, and I was trying to see if I could film on my other DSLR, and I just couldn't do it without the flip around screen. It was just too awkward to do. Trying to like hook it up to a monitor or whatever was just taking way too long, and then for some reason it wouldn't work in video mode, which isn't very useful when I want to use it for video. So this one has like a flippy screen, and the microphone in it is great. That was another thing that my old camera didn't have, was a good microphone. So this one, just the in-camera microphone, is really good. But one good thing about it, am I on the right side? No, it's around the other side. One good thing about it is that here it has a microphone port. So if I want to get better sound eventually, then I can get a microphone and I can plug it into this port here. See, this camera won't even focus. So yeah, this is my new camera and I'm very happy about it. So there you go. I hope you enjoy a little increase in production quality on this channel from now on. So this month I've also just been so busy. It's been a crazy January. I had a couple of friends come to stay for the weekend and that was so much fun. I took them to Cardiff and we just kind of wandered around Cardiff and went to see all the Torchwood stuff around Cardiff. It was a lot of fun. And then we just came back and read books and we watched a load of BuzzFeed Unsolved and just ate loads of food. And it was so much fun. I loved that weekend. And then I think the last update for this month is that I have started a new show with my theatre group. I I'm doing The Wedding Singer. If you've seen the film with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore, I love that film a lot. I haven't seen it in years, but I really want to watch it again. But yeah, we're doing the musical version of The Wedding Singer. I'm just in the ensemble because I'm so busy with like this and my blog and so many other things this year that I was just like, there's no way I can go for anything more than just ensemble. So that's going to be so much fun. It's a very dance-heavy show, which is going to be daunting for me because I'm not a dancer, but I'm still looking forward to it and seeing if I can kind of improve my dancing and like move around more, because when I sit down at my desk all day, I hardly move. So having some really good dance rehearsals is going to actually make me do some exercise. But yeah, let's move on to the actual point of the video. I will go through all the books that I read in January, and then I'll take you through some of the books that I'm going to read in February. So let's go. Okay, bit of a change of scenery. My books are like stacked there. You might have seen them in the previous shot, like in the background. So it's easier just to grab in front of me to go and get a book rather than keep turning around to my shelf every time I want to grab one. So let's start with what I read in January. Like I said, I had the best reading month in January that I think I've ever had, where I read 14 books. Okay, some of them were short, but they still count as books. I still read the books. So if you've seen my other video I uploaded maybe last week, the week before, I can't remember, I lose track of time. I did a reading challenge where I read books that I studied in high school. So I picked 4 books to read that I kind of remember studying in high school to varying degrees, like whether I completely remember them or whether I just kind of remember that we read them, but I can't remember much about the book itself. The first one that I read was Holes by Louis Satcher. I remember so much about that, like that was so much fun. Holes is the story of a kid who people think he's committed a crime. They think he's stolen an athlete's trainers, like expensive trainers, and they basically say you can go to prison or you can go to this like basically like a detention centre where people have to dig holes, and kids basically spend all day digging holes that are 5 feet long, 5 feet deep. You kind of find out that there's like a motive behind the bosses of this place making these kids dig these holes that goes way back to history with something that might be buried there. So it's really interesting and I remember everything about it. I also really want to watch the film at some point. Yeah, I remember really liking it in school, so that was a lot of fun to read and it was so quick. I think it took me like an hour to read the entire book. The next one I read for that challenge was Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. It, again, is one that I remember everything about. It was kind of one where Holes, I remembered the entire plot, start to finish, with maybe just a couple of things that I didn't remember. But Of Mice and Men, it was one where I was kind of reading things and then remembering them as I was reading them. So I was like, oh my god, yes, I remember all this so clearly. That was great. Of Mice and Men is, I feel like everyone knows what Of Mice and Men is by this point, but if you're not sure, it's basically, you have George and Lenny who are farmers and they go around California trying to find work on ranches and farms, and they're basically trying to save up to get their dream life, so they want their own ranch and their own animals and yeah, they just want this kind of dream life that they're trying to save up for. However, Lenny keeps getting himself into trouble. There was this whole thing where in the previous farm they were at, it was something like they thought he raped a woman or killed a woman or something. I can't remember now what it is, but he's never like actually guilty of these things, but it always just kind of seems like he is. He's obsessed with touch, so like he always has a mouse in his pocket so he can just feel this, like the mouse's fur, and he kind of loves the feel of people's hair and like silky dresses and things. He just loves touch. It's just kind of like a sensory thing, but it kind of leads him to some problems, and it means that there's like a massive twist at the end of the book. If you want to hear more about these books, by the way, go and check out my actual video where I talked about reading all of these. It's a long video, it's like over an hour, but if you want to make yourself cozy and watch the whole thing, that would be amazing. but I've also put timestamps in the description of that video where if you just want to hear about specific books and my thoughts on them, just click the timestamps and you can go straight to my review of the books. The next one I read for that challenge was Room 13 by Robert Swindells. Not a fan. It's about these kids who go on a school trip and there's like a weird, like room 13 in this hotel they're staying at is missing. Like there's room 12 and 14, but 13 is missing. So they wonder why, and then they find out that it's like a creepy room. One of the kids seems to be like possessed going into this room. It's supposed to be like a kid's horror. It's just very weird. I wasn't a big fan of it. I remember not liking it in school either. Yeah, I just wasn't a big fan of that book. And then the final one, which was a complete contrast to that one because I absolutely adored it, was Noughts and Crosses by Mallory Blackman. This is about a kind of alternate reality where the roles are flipped. So white people are in the place of black people. So there's basically like segregation but against white people. I know a lot of people today complain that they're just like, well, why do you have to like flip it and see white people in the place of black people just to understand the hardships? But I didn't really see it like that. I just thought it was a really interesting thing to like swap them round. Yeah, I don't know, I just find it really interesting, and the ending is just like one of the most shocking endings to a book. Like I was not expecting that when I went into reading this at all. It follows Callum and Seffi. Callum is white, Seffi is black, and they have been friends since childhood because Callum's mum worked for Seffi's family. It kind of follows them as they grow up, and all of this segregation is kind of coming to fruition, and they kind of realise that spending time together is dangerous and it could affect both of them in different ways. Yeah, it's just such an interesting book, and the story is just incredible. The way that it's written is great, and I just really love this book. I've got the second one in the series on hold at the library at the moment, so I can start reading that at some point when it becomes available, because I was just blown away. Like I didn't expect to love it so much, and it was just so great. Another book I read in January was Paper Avalanche by Lisa Williamson. I was on the blog tour for this. I'll put the link to my blog tour review in the description below. This was another really great book. I haven't read many YA contemporaries for a while. I've been kind of veering into other territories for a little while, trying to see if there's other things that I like. But this was a really good contemporary. I love it so much. It's kind of like, when people kind of describe them as like hard-hitting contemporaries, it's one of those. It's about a girl called Ro, and her mum is a hoarder, so they live in this house that's just completely run down. Like the outside of it just looks awful, and the inside is like a mountain of stuff. It's basically like a mountain of newspapers and letters and bills and like anything that her mum she goes to the shop and picks up 3 of something because it was on offer, and then they never get used. They just kind of sit in a pile in the house. And yeah, it's called Paper Avalanche because of all the papers in the house. So there's like, she talks about it literally being like an avalanche of paper where there's just newspapers and letters just littering the entire house. And it's all about how Ro's mum's hoarding affects both of their lives. Like Ro has always been so secretive, like she never wants anyone coming to her house, so she's really kind of sensitive about making friends. She never wants to make friends because that means that they're going to want to come around to her house, and that's the last thing that she ever wants. But then a girl starts school called Tanvi, who used to go to their school and then she left because she had cancer. She comes back to school and she keeps talking to Ro, and Ro is like, I don't want to be friends with you, and she's just kind of like really, she pushes her away. She's just horrible to her, but Tanvi just doesn't have any of it. And I love Tanvi so much. Like, she is so optimistic. She just has like relentless optimism, and everything that happens, she's just so positive and optimistic about it, and it's just so much fun to read her story. But then you also kind of learn why she's so optimistic about everything in life, and it's because she's had such a hard life. She's basically not had much of a childhood because she's been ill the whole time. Yeah, you find out that she's had like such a hard life, and that's why she's so optimistic about everything. She's just one of the happiest characters that I've ever seen, and I loved her. I feel like so many more people need to be like Tanby. This was so good. If you want to read my review, like I said, I'll put the link in the description below. Next was a book club read. I go to two book clubs. There's an adult one and a young adult one. The young adult one I started myself, but they're both at my local Waterstones. And for the YA one, in January, we decided to read His Dark Materials, Northern Lights, the first one in the His Dark Materials series. We all wanted to read it anyway, but then we also kind of want to read it because of the BBC show. Like, I'm so desperate to watch the BBC series because people were saying how amazing it was, but I didn't want to watch it without reading the book first. So I decided to pick this for my YA book club. It was okay. Like, I expected to love it more than I did. I think I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads because it was just alright. Like, I expected it to be a lot better than, not better, but because it is a good book, I just expected to like it more than I did. It's not a bad book, obviously. It's like a classic, but I just didn't like it as much as I thought I would. I still enjoyed it, like I flew through a lot of it, but then there's just a lot of the story that I find myself almost kind of, I wasn't bored, I was just not that engaged with it. I don't know what it is about it. Maybe if I read it a few years ago I would have adored it, but I'm still really interested to watch the BBC series to see how it compares, because I've seen on Twitter some people talking about bits that they wish were included from the book. So I'm really interested to see how different the adaptation is, or if it is just really close to the book. They've just decided to take some bits out. If you've watched the series, then let me know what you think, because I really want to watch it soon. It would be good if we can discuss it. Another book that I guess isn't technically, I mean, it's still a book, it's just not a novel, and that is this, Pawnee, the Greatest Town in America. And this is a book that is like a companion to the show Parks and Recreation. It is the TV show that I will always go to rewatch if I'm feeling in a good mood and I want a laugh, if I'm feeling down and I want to cheer myself up. It is the go-to show for me, and I just love it so much. This is a book that Leslie Knope actually writes in the show, and they released it a few years ago as an actual book so you can read it. So it's got like history of Pawnee in it, like the town that they live in Indiana. It's got the history of the town, and it's got loads of stuff about the companies and businesses and stuff in the town, and all of the characters from the show have their own segments in this book. It's just so much fun. I love it. I read it probably over a couple of weeks, just kind of reading a few pages at once, like a couple of sections at once. I just love it. It's so much fun. It's just so silly. But yeah, if you love the show, you definitely need to read this because it's a perfect companion to it. I just love it. Okay, so now we're getting more recent. So just last night I finished The Prisoner of Azkaban by Harry Potter. What? Oh my god. I finished Harry Potter and The Prisoner of Azkaban. I am doing a Harry Potter reread at the moment. I'm reading one a month, starting in November, I think. I read Philosopher's Stone in November. I just read Prisoner of Azkaban in January. I finished it last night. I read 200 pages of it last night. I kind of flew through it. This is one of the best books, I think, and one of the best films. I think story-wise, it's just one of the best books of the whole series. I gave it 5 stars. I think the first 2 books I gave 4 stars, and then this one I gave 5 just because I really love it. The story in this is just so great. You get introduced to Sirius, and who doesn't love Sirius? You get so much more kind of, I don't know, the story just gets so in-depth compared to the previous 2. It's a lot darker and you get a lot more kind of action and fun. I just love this a lot. I also remember really loving The Goblet of Fire. I've always said that The Goblet of Fire is like my favourite one of the series, like my favourite book. Whether that's going to be true now, I'm not sure. I checked Goodreads and I last read it in 2014, so it's been like a good almost 6 years since I read Goblet of Fire last. I think I love Goblet of Fire so much because Hagrid is one of my favourite characters, and you get so much Hagrid backstory, and you just get Hagrid a lot more in Goblet of Fire. Same as this one, really. I think that's maybe why I like this so much as well, is because Hagrid is such a prominent character in it. Like, there's all the stuff with Buckbeak, and you've got him trying to teach a class for the first time. Like, you have him trying to teach care of magical creatures, and yeah, I love it. Wait, my camera's dying. Okay, I'm back. This is another great thing about having a DSLR rather than a camcorder, is that I have a spare battery, so when my camera dies I can just whip out the battery and put a new one in, rather than having to try and find a place near a plug socket to plug the camera in as I'm recording. So the final 3 books of the month that I read, again, are very recent, and my video about these will be going up very soon. I can't remember when, maybe Tuesday. I am currently taking part in the Groundhog Day ReadAthon, which is run by my friend Jazz at Travels in Fiction and her friend Sean at Caffeine and Commas. They're running a readathon, which is all about reading your favourite books, and it runs from, like, it started yesterday, which is Friday, and it goes until Sunday night. And I was deliberating what book I was going to read. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to read Unwind by Neil Chesterman, but I wanted something quick and easy to read while I had some other books to finish as well. Like, while I really wanted to try and finish Harry Potter and things like that, I wanted some quick and easy books to read, and I will kind of read Unwind when I have more time to focus on it and work through the rest of the series. So the books that I chose to read for this readathon are A Series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket. I read these, especially these first 3 books, I read them so much as a kid because I really loved the film with Jim Carrey, and like the Jim Carrey film is based on the first 3 books, so I think I've just mainly read the first 3. And now I kind of know the stories of some of the other ones from the Netflix show, but I don't think I've really read much past the first 3 books, which is crazy because I have all of the books. Like, I have all of them up to number 13, and I've only ever really read the first 3 just on repeat. I think it's maybe because when I was younger, I only had the first 3. I never had the whole collection. I only bought the whole collection quite recently. I've just kind of been like picking the rest up from charity shops and stuff as I've seen them. So it's taken me a while to get the full collection. But yeah, so I'm reading these again for the Groundhog Day ReadAthon, and I read all 3 of these yesterday. I read the first one in the morning before I started work, and then I listened to the second one mostly as an audiobook while I was working, and then finished it as the physical book later on when I only had like 20 pages left. And then I read the third one just before I went to bed. So the fact that I read 3 in a day is kind of promising for me to read as many as I can this weekend. My aim is basically just to see how many of these I can get through this weekend. I'm doing a whole video about this readathon and kind of vlogging reading the books. That will be going up on Tuesday, so if you want to see how many I end up getting through this weekend, then wait for that video going up on Tuesday. So yeah, that's everything that I read in January. 14 books is pretty decent. I know a lot of them were quite short, like Series of Unfortunate Events and like Holes and Room 13 and Of Mice and Men and stuff. Like, a lot of them are quite short, but they're still books, they still count. So now I'll quickly go through some of the books that I want to read in February. For the past few months, I think since about October last year, I have been sticking to a set TBR, and it's helped me a lot get back into reading because, like, 2019, I think I read maybe 30 something books in the whole year, and considering I've just read 14 in 1 month, that's mad. But sticking to a TBR for the month has helped me really get back into reading because, like, just having books there in a list that I can look down the list and I can pick one that I want to read and then tick it off has been really motivating to get me back into reading. For February, I don't think I'm going to stick to a set TBR for the entire month. However, I do have certain books that I definitely need or want to read. I will go through those ones, and then the rest of the books will just be a surprise to me. I think I'm just going to kind of mood read the rest of the books, see what I'm interested in reading, and try and maybe read some off my backlist as well. So the first one is Shadow and Bone, and I wanted to read this in January, but I just completely ran out of time. Like, I just didn't have time to read it. So I definitely want to start this in February. because I really want to get through the books so I know what all the hype is, because I read Six of Crows and adored it. If you've seen my video about Six of Crows, you all know how much I adored that book and Crooked Kingdom. So I want to read Shadow and Bone to see like more of the Grishaverse, just to see more of the universe. I know a lot of people say that Six of Crows is a lot better, but I'm interested anyway to read it and see what I think. I have a couple of proofs that were on my TBR for January, and again, I just ran out of time and didn't get to read them. The first one is Infinity Sun by Adam Silvera. I got this at Yelp last year and I still haven't read it. It came out in January at some point. I can't remember what date. It was like towards the end of January, I think, maybe mid-January. I don't know what I'm going to think of this because it hasn't had the best reception. I know a lot of people have said that it's not what they thought, like it hasn't lived up to their expectations. And also I'm not a massive fantasy reader anyway, so it's going to be interesting to see what I think of this. It should be a quick read and I'm interested to see what I think of it and share my thoughts on it. And then the other proof that I want to read this month is The Sky Is Mine. I never know how to pronounce her surname. I say Amy Beschel, but I don't know if Beschel is the right way to pronounce her surname. If someone knows, please tell me in the comments, thanks. But yeah, this is one that comes out this month, comes out in February. I can't remember when, I don't know if there's a date on it. Oh, there you go, 6th of February, so not long, there's like a few days. So I might kind of bump this up my priority list a bit because it's contemporary as well, so it should be a really quick read. Yeah, I might bump this up my priority list so I can get it reviewed close to the release date. Next is one that I really should have finished by now because I started it so long ago. It was for my January book club and I still haven't finished it. I'm like less than halfway through, and that's Cersei by Madeline Miller. I'm enjoying it, but it's quite hard to get through. It's very flowery prose, and I'm not used to that. Yeah, I'm finding it quite hard to get through. I've really enjoyed the first half, but I think I've put it down for too long now and read other things that I'm kind of struggling to pick it back up and get back into it. So I'm not really sure what to do. I might see if my library has it as an audiobook maybe. I've checked BorrowBox and that doesn't have it. I've checked Scribd and that doesn't have it. So yeah, I'm not really sure what to do about this one because I don't want to DNF it because I was really interested in the first half, but for some reason now, when it's got halfway, I'm kind of just finding it a bit of a slog to pick up and carry on with, because I think it's because I've been reading so many simple books, like they're really easy books to read, and this one definitely isn't. It's a lot more flowery and I don't have a lot of motivation at the moment to pick it back up. So maybe at some point this month I will try and pick this back up or see if I can find an audiobook to just put on while I'm working or whatever. The next one is my book club read for February for my adult book club, and that is Reasons to Stay Alive by Matt Haig. We decided to go for a non-fiction because we do a lot of fiction books, and it's good to sometimes go for a non-fiction because you can have some really good discussions about them. So we went for this because we're trying to get people to come along to the book club at the moment, and I thought Matt Haig is quite a big name and it might try and encourage some people to come along. It's also a really tiny book. Like if I compare it to a normal paperback, look at the size difference. It's such a tiny book. It's really cute, and it's also like super short. It's like 250 pages, and yeah, all the chapters as well are like 1 page. So I'm looking forward to reading this. It's one that I've wanted to read for ages, but I've just never really got around to picking it up. So doing it for book club now is a good excuse to pick it up and read it. A couple more on my TBR. I have Pages & Co., the second book in the Pages & Co. series by Anna James. I adored the first Pages & Co. book. I really loved it. It was just so much fun and it was just so magical and easy to read. So I picked this up quite recently in the Waterstone sale, and I'm so excited to pick this series back up. These books are just stunning. Like, it's just so beautiful. Like, look under the dust jacket. It's just so pretty. I just love these books. They're so stunning. And the story is just so much fun. So yeah, I can't wait to pick this back up and carry on with this series because I just really loved the first book. One that is super exciting, and I spotted it in Waterstones the other day. I don't even think this has come out yet. Waterstones are shelving it really early. That is Heartstopper No. 3. Oh my god. I'm so excited that I have this. I love these books so much. I have a video talking about the first 2 Heartstopper books, and I'm basically just garbling for however long about why I love them so much and how they're just really adorable. I think it's my most popular video on this channel actually. People love Alice Oseman. They really love Heartstopper. So I am so excited to read this. It's gonna be a really quick read. I'll read it in like half an hour. And my review for this is gonna be going up very soon because it comes out pretty soon and I wanna try and get my review up like as close to the release date as possible. Oh, and we're also doing the first Heartstopper book for my YA book club in January, so that's pretty exciting. I've already obviously read the first 2, but I'm gonna give the first one a quick reread, I think, just so I know what to talk about for the book club, so I don't kind of completely forget what happens in the first book compared to the rest of them. And then, the one that I am most excited about this year, out of any of the ones, not this year, I mean this month. The one that I'm most excited about this month, compared to any of them on the list, is one that I got recommended by Kayla at Books and Lala. As usual, I always talk about her because she inspires me a lot. I have seen so many people this year talking about how they're so inspired by her to read this book, and that is Middle Game by Seanan McGuire. Kayla recently did a video where she read some other booktubers' favourites from 2019, and it's funny because pretty much every booktuber she talked about, like everyone that she showed their video, all of them were like, one of my favourite books of the entire year was Middle Game, and that was recommended by Kayla, and she's just like, this is my brand now. So I am joining those people in being inspired by her to read Middle Game. It sounds so good and I'm so excited. This was really expensive to buy, it was mental. Like, I spent all of my Waterstones card credit, which is like £10 off a book, and spent an extra like £10 on it. So yeah, this was expensive, but hopefully it's worth it. Hopefully it's really good and it's worth it. Judging by the number of people that have been freaking out about this book, I expect it will be worth it. I'm really into kind of weird books at the moment that have sort of weirdly magical fantasy stories. So yeah, I'm really excited to read this. So those are all my books that I want to read this month. You can find out how many of them I actually end up reading in my next video like this that I'll put up at the end of February. And yeah, I'm hoping to get through all of those and a couple of others if possible, but some of those are quite long, so I'll have to see if I can get through them. But then some of them are super short, like Heartstopper, so yeah, I'll see. I'm also reading a lot of a series of unfortunate events this weekend, so that's obviously going to boost my number of books that I'm reading in February, because they don't take very long to read at all, especially the earlier ones where they're a lot shorter. They don't start to get a lot longer until like book 10, so I'm hoping I can fly through as many of those as I can as well. So let me know what is on your TBR for February, what you read in January. Did you read anything that became like your favourite book in January? Let me know as well if you've read any of the ones that are on my February TBR and if you recommend them. And yeah, let's have a good chat in the comments about books. If you like this video and you want to see more, then please subscribe to my channel. I post videos twice a week at the moment and I'm just loving it so much. I'm loving posting videos and I'm loving trying to like grow my channel a lot. So subscribing to my channel will support me a heck of a lot, and yeah, it will make me very happy. And if you could like the video as well, that helps a lot. Thanks for watching. I will see you on Tuesday with another video. Bye!